I'm Eric Sheinkop, CEO of Music Dealers, and we work with independent artists to place their material in commercials, in movies, and television shows, and we help marketers tell better stories through our artists and through the use of their music. I mean, of course, anybody needs to develop skills that are going to help them make more money, do better on their own, especially in the art world, get their art out to more people. But at the same time, we exist so that they could concentrate on their art. And that's what musicians really need to do, is really hone in and focus and, perfect their art so that companies like mine can do something with it and create more value in the world from it. We are the largest provider of independent artists for commercial use in the world, but at the same time, it's a very hands-on personal experience with all of our artists. All of our artists have their A&R rep, and they're available on the phone at all times, on email. And we go after the best emerging talent. We represent over 85 different countries. And the artists that are buzzing and really getting a little bit of radio play, a little bit of press, and bringing their content in so that we could make them some new revenue streams. So Macmillan earlier this year put out published a book I wrote called Hit Brands, How Music Builds Value for the World's Smartest Brands. And it's case studies from some of the world's biggest and best brands, Coca-Cola and Converse, about 7 others as well, that are using independent artists to create more value, a stronger, deeper connection with their consumer. So in the world where, just like artists are going through brands, television shows, everybody's going through this where they're fast forwarding through commercials. It's harder to control shelf space. So they need to have a deeper, more meaningful connection with their consumer, and that's the exact role that music plays. Music as the world's #1 passion means that people are invited into their lives in a way that they invite no other product ever. So marketers being able to understand the value of music and how to engage their consumers through independent artists is really what the book is meant to educate. Before, it was never possible for a brand to interact with an independent artist. It wasn't possible for advertising agencies to even accept unsolicited music from independent artists. So it was massive barriers for independent artists to get their music into television shows or commercials. And what we do is we have the relationship with the brand. They tell us what they're looking for in the same way they always did, and we either get it custom created through our artist community, or we have a database that has all the music cataloged. And they're able to search themselves. They could request playlists, and we send it over. But we enhance the way that they are currently telling their stories. So a lot of commercials are done, music as the afterthought, just some background music thrown in there. It adds no value. Using an independent artist that has a little buzz, a real cool, catchy song, that's what you'll see on YouTube as the engagement factor. That's what people are talking about. That's why people are Shazamming a commercial. We recently did a commercial for McDonald's and used an independent hip-hop group from New Zealand called The Wild. The commercial was the #1 most Shazammed commercial in America. The song went to #3 most viral on Spotify in America, and it went to #6 on iTunes. The band toured for the first time in the U.S. and signed to Columbia Records, all within 2 months of this commercial. So it's amazing that McDonald's wasn't in the background and they were at the forefront of the band, thanking them for the opportunity. And at the same time, the consumers had a perception shift where they're all of a sudden looking at McDonald's as a filter of curated content, where McDonald's is delivering cool music. So that's the value that a brand gets. And then obviously the value the band gets is not only revenue, but massive exposure. Chicago is home. It's where we started. It's where we grew up. And it's an unbelievable, untapped resource of good talent. It always has been. It just hasn't got its national or international shine, the past however many, 20, 30 years, really. But the advertising mecca is Chicago. This is where all the advertising agencies are. So that's why while we were growing up in the music industry and we were managing bands and we were throwing parties, that's how we got into this business, is the advertising creatives, the advertising producers would come to our parties, they would come to our shows. And they started asking when they got into budget crunches in 2004, 2005, 2006, their budget started shrinking, but they didn't want to use stock music. They wanted to use commercial music like they were used to. They just didn't have the budget for it. And that's where our artists, our independent artists, came in. So we were quickly able to capture the independent artist scene in Chicago by providing them commercial opportunity, and we had more advertising agencies in Chicago than we were able to touch. So only once we got a really good footing in Chicago did we move to New York, and then we moved to LA, and we moved to London. We opened up in Mexico, and it's been expanding, but Chicago will always be home. Chicago is where our talent is in terms of the people who are doing the production for curating our artists, tagging our music, ingesting it. Our creative hub is Chicago. It's a beautiful city, and the city is starting to support artists more than they have. The mayor has an initiative within tech, and he succeeded with 1871, making it the largest incubator in the country. And now he's setting his sights on arts and music and asking how can he and the city support arts and music. So we've been able to do things that weren't possible before and would be, harder to break into in other cities. We're doing a concert series every Wednesday on Michigan Avenue at the John Hancock Center, one of the most prolific buildings in the world with the most tourism in the city, and we're having independent artists perform and get paid. And it's because of the city and the city support that we're able to do those type of things. I'm Eric Sheinkop from Music Dealers. You're watching GRAMMY Pro.